I feel I don't do a good job of bringing up the NBA here because for whatever reason, the regular season, I'll admit it here. I mean, yeah, there's been some good games here and there. There's been some interesting storylines here and there. I don't feel I always felt the NBA regular season was not the most interesting thing to watch. It's the playoffs that when everything kind of just, breaks loose. That's when it gets really, really interesting. But this year's regular season looks to be pretty interesting because of a play-in tournament that looks to be happening in about 2 weeks' time, where the 7th seed through 10th seed in both conferences will be playing in some play-in games to determine who the 7th and 8th seeds will be in their respective conferences. The Los Angeles Lakers have been they're in 7th place right now in the Western Conference, and LeBron James, it looks as if he's been he was hurting a little bit. He came back. It looks like his ankle again is kind of hurting him well, and it's not looking too good for LeBron James. And he was asked about the possibility of playing play-in games. He was not happy about that. It seemed as if you know he probably wants the person who suggested that idea at the NBA to be fired. The problem is that a year ago, before everyone was playing in the bubble, LeBron said playing a play-in tournament would be a good idea.
Yeah, he was advocating for it last year, and he said it's a good way to not discredit the teams who battled through a 60 game, however many games they played last season, and have them not make the playoffs. And so he was advocating for this play-in, and now he is going against it. So a bit in a year's time, a bit contradictory. But look, like, explain it to the listeners. Like, what does this mean for the people in the play-ins, Julian?
Like, okay,
not the teams in the play-in.
I'll admit this to everybody here. We kind of peel the curtain back here. Frank and I read through the rules of how the play-in tournament is supposed to work, because admittedly I did not know, and I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can here. So the 7th and 8th seeds in each conference will play each other in a play-in game, and the winner of that game will be the 7th seed. The loser of that game will play the winner of the 9th and 10th game. So the 9th and 10th seeds in each conference will play each other in a game, and the winner of that game will play the loser of the 7-8 game, and the winner of that game will be the 8th seed. So you're getting some one-offs. You're not getting like series or anything. It's a bit it's like a weird way of them trying to copy what the MLB was doing with the wild card games and all that, kind of, sort of, I guess. But very interesting. And that's why a team like the Toronto Raptors, who are like 2.5 games out of that 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, while they, in another year, you think maybe they tank, this year they still have something to play for. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool idea. And I think it's hilarious that people who were advocating for this previously, apparently Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks was pro this, and I think has since reverted on that. For what it's worth, the Mavericks are a couple places up on 7th place. It's just funny to see people who were cool with it because, hey, they weren't going to be in the games. Maybe a team like the Phoenix Suns, when they weren't good last year, has a chance of making it through. Or, hey, the Portland Trailblazers, they weren't that great last year. They have an opportunity to not have their seasons go for naught.
Was it the Washington Wizards as well?
The Washington Wizards this year, the Memphis Grizzlies this year, the Golden State Warriors, who I'll get to in a second, where they're without Klay Thompson. They're not the same team as they were a few years ago when they were winning all those titles. They have a chance to play some meaningful games. Do you want to go up against Steph Curry in the playoffs? Be careful with that. I don't know. I like the idea of a play-in game, and I can't wait until those games start in about 2 weeks. I'm just very curious what's going to look like for the Lakers this year, because I thought at the beginning of the year, like, okay, wow, it's on them to repeat this year, but the Sixers are good, the Nets are good, the Bucks are being looked at as well. The Phoenix Suns are atop the Western Conference. The Utah Jazz have been good for most of the year. Even though the Denver Nuggets aren't going to have Jamal Murray, they're still good. They're likely going to have the MVP and Nikola Jokic. And the Clippers, Los Angeles Clippers, they're going to go for it every year when they have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I didn't even mention the New York Knicks, a team that I did not think they're probably, maybe you think of them as a contender, maybe you don't think of them as a contender, but I think of them as a team that's just going to make things really fun in the playoffs, because the Knicks have some good young talent. RJ Barrett is on that team, and he's been playing really well, but also the New York Knicks fan base, who have been starving for anything good for the better part of maybe just a couple decades here. I get they've had teams in the 90s that were really good, but like, geez,
They missed the playoffs for quite some time. They've
oof,
been on the bottom of the barrel for a few years now.
Oof. Yeah, that's true. I should say, yeah, the teams back then were really good, but like it's been a while since they've had those teams. And if there's one thing I enjoy, it's seeing New York Knicks fans just kind of act out. If we get a series, I don't know how it would work out, but if we somehow got a series between the Knicks and the Nets, that is must-watch television. Yeah. I'm telling you, stop what you're doing, watch the Knicks and the Nets, because whoever loses that fan base is not going to hear the end of it. If the Nets somehow win, the Brooklyn fans are going to be all like, yeah, that's what's up. You know, suck it, Knicks fans. If the Knicks win, considering what the Nets had to do to get the big three that they have, the memes. Oh my God. They could the memes break after not just break the internet, they could power a small town. As far as I'm concerned, that's how intense it would get. So definitely keep it locked for the NBA playoffs when they happen.